Hello everyone and welcome. Thank you very much for joining me tonight as we go through this reading exercise for the FCE exam. Before we get started, just a few technical issues to go through. First of all, could you please let me know that you can hear me okay? If the sound is okay, if you can hear me, then please write in the live chat, let me know, and that way I'll know that I'm not just talking and talking and talking and no one's listening to me. Last time I did the webinar on Tuesday, I very cleverly got the settings all wrong and broadcasted it to no one apart from myself. This time I can see that I am live, so there shouldn't be any problems with you seeing me, but of course if you can hear me and let me know that you can hear me, then that would be fantastic. Okay, the second thing to say is if you've got any questions at all, or if you've got any comments or queries, then please contact me through the live chat. Let me know if I'm speaking too fast or I'm mumbling so you can't hear me, or indeed if you've got any questions about vocabulary or anything like that, then please contact me through the live chat and I'll be happy to respond to your questions, queries, and so on. Now, thirdly, I'm going to be looking backwards and forwards between my screens whilst I keep an eye on everything that's going on. So if you see me looking towards the side, then don't think I'm not paying attention. I'm just keeping an eye on what's going on. Okay then, so if you've got yourself a cup of tea like I have, then let's begin. Now, this reading exercise, under exam conditions, you're looking to do a part 5 reading exercise in about 14-15 minutes. You're looking to do this exercise a little bit faster than the other reading exercises. The main reason being is that you have the answers. So even if you don't know and you just take a guess, then you might get one of the answers correct. So here, the process of thinking about the answer is what I'm trying to say. The process about thinking about the answer is a little bit easier. And of course, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to match vocabulary. That's the name of the game. We're trying to match vocabulary with the answer, with what's written in the answer to what's written in the text. And if we can match that vocabulary and also pay attention to the context, then we should get the correct answer. And that's exactly what we can see for question number 1, which says, in the second paragraph, the phrase first line of defense suggests something. Okay, so we're analyzing the vocabulary in the first line of defense. And defense straight away makes you think about keeping something safe or looking after something along those lines. So if we have a look at the answers that we're given, even before we read the text, we can see that one of the answers starts to stand out straight away. Defense really does work with the idea of protection. Defense doesn't really work with only options. It doesn't really work with instructions. And it doesn't really work with weakness. When you're talking about defense, normally you talk about being strong. So let's have a look at the second paragraph and see what it says. It says, her first piece of advice is to install software and a firewall to protect your computer from viruses, hackers, and criminals who want to steal your data or financial information. Think of these as your first line of defense. And these, of course, refers to software and the firewall to protect your computer. So the software and the firewall are there as your first line of defense. I don't think I need to explain really that much further. The answer clearly is B, if I move my arrow across. And we can see if I move myself just a little bit out of the way, you can see, oh, there we go, flying around. You can see, well done, your answer is correct. So over my shoulder, you should be able to see, well done, if we've got the answers correct or not. Okay, let's have a look back at question number 2. Of course, if you've got any questions at all about any vocabulary, as I said at the beginning, then please get in contact with me and let me know. And I'm more than happy to discuss vocabulary and to deal and answer any questions you might have. Okay, for question number 2, we've got the effect of the fire. So let's go through this paragraph to get the context and find out what's going on. So it's this one here. So much for protecting yourself against intruders, but what about other problems? Say you've accidentally deleted an important file, or you've been at the mercy of a natural disaster. If you've been at the mercy of something, it means that this has affected you and there's nothing you could have done about it. It simply affected you and that's it, that's life. Katie Marsh runs an online photography business from home, and when a fire destroyed part of her house, it could easily have spelled ruin for her business too. Now, what does that expression mean? It could easily have spelled ruin for her business. Well, if you ruin something, you destroy something. And if something spells ruin, well, this is an expression for destroying something. So what we're trying to say here, what the text is trying to say, is that part of a house, it could easily have destroyed or ended perhaps her business too. Later, carrying on, it says, luckily, I keep a regular backup of my data, so it wasn't a catastrophe. It wasn't a disaster. Amanda advises that while backups are good to have, we must ensure we protect our computers to start with. So let's turn our attention back to the question. The effect of the fire was worse for Katie's business than her home. Was it worse for her business than her home? Well, it says here that the business didn't suffer too badly. And we don't have when a fire destroyed part of her house. So what we've got here is, I would argue, that the house suffered more than her business. So the answer clearly isn't A. B, well, it didn't ruin Katie's business because the text said it could easily have spelled ruin for her business too. Contextually, that means her business was not ruined, so the answer can't be B. Not as serious for Katie's business as it could have been. And here we have our answer, particularly in this sentence here. Luckily, I keep a regular backup of my data, so it wasn't a catastrophe. It wasn't as bad or serious as it could have been. So here the answer is C. Just to have a look at D quickly, to make Katie start to back up her data. And of course, it says, luckily, I keep a regular backup of data. So this is something that she does anyhow, so it's clearly not D. So the answer is C. And I'll remind you here, of course, that data is an uncountable noun. You cannot say datas. So if you want to count data, then you would have to, generally we would say pieces of data, amounts of data, sometimes if the context is correct, but not datas. Okay, so let's have a look at question number 3. According to the web, hang on a second, it's running away from me. According to the Web Awareness Survey, our attitude to our personal safety is rather, here we've got 4 adjectives: relaxed, concerned, positive, and uncertain. So 4 completely different adjectives, 4 completely different meanings. So let's have a look at the paragraph and let's see which of those adjectives fits best, or where is the vocabulary link. Whilst most of us are aware that, of the need to protect our computers, it seems we're more lax when it comes to looking out for ourselves, at least according to a recent Web Awareness Survey. Web safety specialists say better personal awareness is needed, and this is due in part to the rise of social networking sites like Facebook or Twitter, which allow us to connect with people around the world with similar interests and professional backgrounds. And then it talks about Chris Simpson, a computer programmer, learnt the hard way. I joined and blah, 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 blah. And then talks about what Chris Simpson did. And then it says, they couldn't believe that someone in my job could get taken in so seriously. No wonder then that, Amanda warns, it's easy to get complacent and let our guard down when we meet someone with the same interests online. Now, the key bit here is according to the Web Awareness Survey. Now, the Web Awareness Survey is mentioned up here. So a good idea would be, if something is mentioned in the question text, to find where that is in the main text and look around that to see if we can find our answer, because it's likely that the answer is going to be close by. It's unlikely that the answer is going to be 5 or 6 sentences later. Possibly it might be, so you've got to read the text carefully, but it's likely to be somewhere near the thing that we're talking about in the question. So around this, in the vocabulary around this, where is our key vocabulary? Well, there are a couple of pieces of key vocabulary. First of all, it seems we're more lax. It seems that we're more lax, at least according to the recent Web Awareness Survey. So if we forget about that subclause, it seems we're more lax, at least according to a recent Web Awareness Survey. What does lax mean? Well, sometimes you get certain clues, and sometimes those clues are good clues. Sometimes they are dead ends, but sometimes they're good clues. And the clue here is lax, because lax means relaxed. And that is our answer. So it says here, better also, to back up the idea of relaxed, better personal awareness is needed, which means that we need to try harder. And then further later on it says, it's easy to get complacent and let our guard down. So all of these things tell us that we're not perhaps being as careful as we should be. And if we have a look at the answers, the only possible answer it could be is A. Okie dokie. So let's have a quick look at number 4. Regarding Khaled's experience, the writer is surprised that. Okay, let's scroll on down to Khaled and see if we can find him. Here he is here in this paragraph. So let's read the question first. It says, the writer is surprised that people telephone complete strangers. People don't think of the results of their actions online. University students take part in online discussions. People sent emails to Khaled without asking permission. So regarding Khaled's experience, the writer is surprised that. Okay, so there's a number of different things going on there in the answers. So let's see if we can find any vocabulary clues which might link to this. So let's have a look at the paragraph. This brings us to other potential pitfalls. Pitfalls, another word for disadvantages. Fantastic vocabulary. So if you're looking for a range of vocabulary in your writing, particularly at FCE, disadvantages, pitfalls, hurdles, and so on. There's a number of things that we could say. Are the people you meet online who they really claim to be? Can you be sure the person you're chatting with is in fact a 20-year-old maths undergraduate from London and not someone merely masquerading? Masquerading means pretending to be. Masquerading as a student to win your trust. And now we start to talk about Khaled. Where the paragraph has been set up, we've got an introduction. Now let's talk about Khaled. Khaled, a postgrad from Manchester University. Postgrad is short for postgraduate. Quickly realised that it was unwise of him to post his phone number and email address in the public forum of an online academic discussion group. He was soon bombarded. What does that mean, bombarded? Bombarded literally means that lots of bombs are being thrown at you. So in a war place, where there's a war, if lots of bombs are being dropped, then that place is being bombarded, literally. But idiomatically, bombarded might mean that we're getting lots of something, whatever that something is. And in this case, he was soon bombarded with unwanted emails and nuisance phone calls. Nuisance phone calls are phone calls that you don't want or don't need. Yet it's astonishing how many highly educated people do this without considering the consequences that anyone in the world could use the information to make unwanted, contact. And where's our key vocabulary here? the key vocabulary we'll find in this sentence. It's astonishing how many educated people do this, specifically here, do this without considering the consequences. Without considering the consequences, and if you don't consider the consequences, it means you don't think about the results of your actions, which, when we have a look at B, it says exactly that. People don't think of the results of their actions online. So here we've got a clear vocabulary link between the results of their actions and considering the consequences, which means that our answer is B. Question number 5. What tip does the writer give for joining an online community? And then we've got the answers. Always use a false name, make sure you're properly registered, limit the information you give to others, and tell other users where you're studying. What tips? What tip, in other words? So what clue? What helpful piece of advice? This is what a tip is. Okay, so let's have a look at the relevant paragraph and see what it says. When networking and joining online communities, it's better to be cautious. It's better to be careful about the amount of personal information you share. For example, it isn't always necessary to use your real name as a username when registering for a service. You could instead use a pseudonym. A pseudonym is a pretend name, or a name that doesn't give away your real identity to other users. And is it really important to tell the world details about your school, college, or any local clubs you're a member of? Sometimes it pays to be a little vague. Pays to be means it's a good thing. You get benefits from this. So sometimes it's beneficial, if we were looking for a synonym, sometimes it's beneficial to be a little vague, which means not precise, and simply say something like, I'm studying at college in Madrid at the moment, and I'm a member of a local tennis club. So if we go back to our, our questions, what's the tip that he says? Always use a false name. He doesn't say always use a false name. He says you could instead use a pseudonym. So that's not always use. So A is wrong. Make sure you are properly registered. Where does it say anything about registering? It says as a username when registering for a service, but it doesn't say anything about properly registering. So here B is also the incorrect answer. If we have a look at D quickly, it says tell other users where you're studying. Well, it says here sometimes it pays to be a little vague, which means not tell others exactly where you're studying, which means the answer must be C, which means limit the information you give to others, and it's here exactly in that same place. Sometimes it's first of all it says is it really important to tell the world details about your school, college, or local clubs? And that's one part of limiting information. And the second part of limiting invitation is this idea of being a little bit vague or a little bit inexact, and then you won't you will limit the information you give to others. Okay, let's have a quick look at number 6. In the final paragraph, the writer advises people not to put photos online, to apply for a job online, not to have any personal information online, to consider what may cause problems in the future. So 4 different pieces of advice. So let's see if we can find the vocabulary link. So the last paragraph says, if you do experience problems from another user, be prepared to report them for misusing the service, misusing, not using something properly. You'll be doing other users a favor too, to do someone a favor, a wonderful little expression. And if all else fails, check to see if it's easy to delete your account and leave the service if you choose to, and that you have the option to delete all your details. May not be possible in today's world. A general rule of thumb is not to post any information about yourself that you would not be happy for the world to know, not just now, but in the years to come. This includes photographs of yourself, particularly embarrassing shots, in other words, shots is another word for photos, of you at a party which you may later regret. It's not always easy to remove information after it's been posted, so you, not to mention your future employer, may have an unpleasant surprise a few years down the line. So it says here not to put photos online. It doesn't say not put photos online. It just says be careful about the photographs that you put online. It says particularly embarrassing shots. So not everything, but you've got to be careful about what you do. So it's not A, because A is too far. B, to apply for a job online. Where does it say anything about jobs? I can't see anything, so there's nothing about jobs. Job might be here in the context of your future employer. So, but there's nothing about applying for a job, so it can't be B. Not to have any personal information online. Once again, it says here, a general rule of thumb is not to post any information about yourself that you would not be happy for the world to know. So not don't post information online, but be careful about what you do post. The answer isn't C. And to consider what may cause problems in the future. Key word here, or the key expression, is in the future. Now, there are a couple of vocabulary links to talking about the future. First of all, not just now, but in the years to come. So in other words, not just now, but what might happen in the future. And also an unpleasant surprise a few years down the line. In other words, also in the future. So here we've got clear vocabulary links, and the answer is D. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you got all of the questions correct. If you didn't, I hope that my explanations went some way to explain why, or at least help you understand why the correct answer is the correct answer. And please don't be afraid. If you've got any questions, queries about this particular exam question, then please get in contact with me on the live chat, or indeed in the comments below this video when it's later posted on YouTube, and I'll happily get back to you. Thank you very much now. I'll see you next week with some more FCE and CAE exam question exercises.